All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Behind the Book. I'm Miss Erica, the teacher lady, your fairy godparent when it comes to sharing joyful stories and growing young minds. Now, all this week, we are talking about moving, transitions, and starting over. And y'all know we are using books to be able to do so, okay? In this Behind the Book segment, From Far Away, a story of a girl that is leaving war to start over in a new country for, well, safety. In this Behind the Book segment, we will be going over the glows, what I think was done well, the grows, what I felt could have been done a little bit differently, who this book is for, how to utilize it as a resource to have a more meaningful, robust conversation with your little, and more. All in this episode of Behind the Book, where we go beyond the pages to get to the heart of the story. You ready? Let's grow. Summary in my own words. This is a story of Susanna and her family. And her family is transitioning from their home country to a new country for safety. They're experiencing a war in her home country. And this book walks us through the journey of going from that to establishing life in new and unfamiliar territory. It's a children's book, but in a lot of ways, it's her autobiography. And it's one that children should read to start to familiarize themselves with what it means to live life in a way that we could only imagine. Summary in my own words. This is the story of Suzanne and her family, and they are leaving a civil war in Lebanon and moving to Canada for safety. The book really walks us through the journey of going from her home country to her new country, and initially what it was like to not be able to speak the language, to not understand where the restroom was, and the list continues. And overall, it's a story that definitely connects to our topic on transition, but it also gives children an insight of what life could be like for other people. Take home message. Was the take home message clearly communicated to the target audience? The take home message is that in the beginning, things will be rough, things will be hard. You're leaving home, you don't know people yet. You're trying to figure out where things like the bathroom are. You're trying to even figure out your name and whether or not you should assimilate, right? And for this book is that you can start over. She doesn't shy away from the fact that it was hard. She's very detailed on her journey going from the civil war in Lebanon to her new home country and what those challenges are. But overall, at the end, she is happy with her change. And there's so much beauty to that. In terms of target audience and age group, I would say 5 years old to 8, maybe 9 years old is a good age demographic for this book. I feel like children who are neurotypical around that age will be able to understand the gist of the story, and it can definitely be utilized as a resource to help your child transition, even if it's not from one country to another. So yes, I do feel like the message was clearly communicated to young children, 5 to 9 years old. I feel like the words were simple enough and extremely straightforward that they'll be able to get it. And at the end of the day, everybody reading this book will take away something different. Glows and what I appreciate about the story. My first glow is the vulnerability of this book. First page, she out there, okay? She gonna tell you what's going on. So on the first page, the place we used to live was very nice, but then war started. There's no food. We are getting shot at. Bombs made holes in the wall. There's a glow there because that's hard. That is hard to state and put on paper. Yet and still, she was 7 years old when this took place and she was experiencing it. And I know with children's books, we oftentimes want to coddle and protect them from things that are painful. But what happens when they interact with another classmate and this is their experience? Situations like this help to build empathy. Books like this help to build empathy. So, one of my glows is definitely the vulnerability and the honesty that was put into this story. My second glow is literally my favorite part of the book. There is a part in this book where she starts to change her name because it's going to be easier for people to call her Susan than Suzanne. Hoping I didn't mispronounce your name. But that is a huge glow for me. It is one thing for you to come to another country and join it. It is another thing to come to another country and completely remove your own culture, your own history, your name to make other people feel more comfortable. We don't like that. And so I love the fact that she was able to keep this cultural element. I love the fact that in the page, she says she tried to change it and her mama was like, absolutely not. We not doing that. That is a huge glow for me. And I know it's one that a lot of people experience. My name is just Erica. It ain't got that many letters, but so often we try to change ourselves, our identity, our name, whatever to fit in. And that ain't how we go about it. And so I really appreciated that piece of the book. And my last glow is that she utilized real situations that children can understand that she struggled with, right? So she talks about going to the bathroom and seeing this skeleton because it's Halloween and how it freaked her out. And children know what skeletons are. I'm sure it would be scary if I had no idea why it was there. She talks about other people sounding funny and sounding different, which I appreciate that it wasn't all on her because she has a language and you have a language. And so you can't understand her language. Maybe she can't understand your language either. And so I appreciated the examples that were simple enough for young children to be able to understand. And again, these help to build empathy because now I can connect and I can relate. I can only imagine what it feels like to be in your situation. So it helps when your child is now interacting with other people who are immigrants, who are learning a new language, so on and so forth. Grows or what I think could have been done a little differently. Now, I always tell y'all if I don't have a grow, I don't go looking for one. I feel like this is her story, baby. I can't tell you how to tell your story. I feel like the story is written in a way that young children can understand and it sheds light on her experience. And she's not the only one. At the school that I oversee, our school has tons of children who are refugees, who have come from countries dealing with war or violence, who are new to the city, to the state, to the country. And so this experience is not unique to her, but this is her story from her lens point. And there's no critique I have on that. I just appreciate the willingness to be able to share. Discussion questions or how to utilize this book as a resource to have a more robust conversation with your child. There are multiple ways to utilize this book. One of them would definitely be to discuss war. I think for a lot of children, this book might be an introduction to what war is. In the very beginning of the book, she talks about her home being bombed and her family being shot at. And with reading this to young children, or even when I'm reading it in a classroom, we definitely want to stop and have a conversation about what war is, why war happens, or even for some children, what does being shot at exactly mean? Because this will be their first time learning for a lot of them. So that is one of the ways that I would use this book to have a deeper conversation. If your child is in the process of transitioning, they're moving, a friend is moving, something new is happening. This book is also a really excellent resource to have that discussion of what it might be like in the beginning. See, this story is a bit different from Evelyn Del Rey in terms of the ending because in this book, the ending is like, yeah. And then things got better for me and my family. And at the very end of the book, she even talks about her life now being an adult and how beautiful her life is today. And in the other read aloud that we had this week, Evelyn Del Rey is moving away. We don't get that. We get her friend will always be in her heart. So utilizing this book as a way to show that it is possible, that it might start off hard, right? When you're learning new friends and you're trying to figure out where the local store is or all of these new things, but we will keep going and we will get through this transition and this change together. And I feel like you will get the most with this book by taking that approach, utilizing it as a tool and a resource to hold the hand of your little one as you step into this new chapter of your life, whatever that new chapter might be. Who should add this to their home library? There are kind of two groups that initially come to mind. The first group I would say is if your child is an immigrant, if they're a refugee, if they have any direct connection to her story, it really helps to be seen. So often we just want to feel like someone else is going through and experiencing what it is that we're going through and experiencing, because then it helps us to know, like, hey, we're not always going to feel this way. So if you are a parent of a child who is migrating from one place or another, if you're a family who has also experienced war or extreme change, get this book. It will help. The second is kind of on the opposite. Children who have no understanding that people live life in a very different way, that people come from very different places, that people have to experience things like war or have experienced things like war. If your child is very sheltered, right? They have no idea what the rest of the world goes through and what some other students in their class or in their community have went through. Get this book. If you want to have empathetic children, you are going to have to expose them to stories that they are unfamiliar with through the lens of being a humanitarian, being a friend, and showing kindness. So those two groups of people, I would recommend definitely read this story. Final thoughts. Wow. My final thoughts are really just based in gratitude. I feel like it is so difficult to talk about what it is that Susan has experienced. I feel like although it is more common than we understand, we tend to put these things in a box and not really want to look at them. And so I am grateful that you had the vulnerability, you along with the co author, Robert, to be willing to open up and to put this in front of so many children and adults who need to understand what it feels like to start over, especially when you did not want to. I also want to take a moment to really appreciate the illustrator, Rebecca Green. I feel like there were so many details. I love the image of the child in the wheelchair, the glasses, and just overall the diversity of the book really helps children to get a clearer picture of the story. So thank you for sharing. Wow. Thank you so much for being part of this book loving community. We are going through topic after topic with so much to learn. This book has a read aloud that's on the Teacher Lady Reads playlist. If you have not already done so, go check that out. And then on Friday, we have Teacher Lady Speaks, where we wrap all of this up and get deep on the topic of transition and new beginnings. We utilize my insight as a well seasoned educator. Hey, that's me. We talk about books. We talk about additional resources and overall how to help your little one transition. If you're new here, I also want to tell you that I am an author and illustrator of 9 beautiful books. And that process has inspired the Empathy Library. The Empathy Library is our pay it forward program. It is the most straightforward book donation program I've seen in my entire career as an educator. You go on a website, you give what you can. We buy books to children who need them, and then boom, they get them. You donate, they get. You donate, they get. Okay, it's super straightforward. All the receipts are there. And I just ask that if you're able to, you go and support that cause. Well, I am so grateful that you're still on this journey with me. And as always, remember to enjoy the moment or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.